Hello and a warm welcome. This is the news on NTA International, reaching you live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. My name is Justin Bemuye and Precious Azemina is the sign language interpreter. First, let's look at the headlines. Federal government seeks support for N774 initiative to combat malnutrition, holds roundtable with development partners. Senate seeks comprehensive plan to prevent flooding, urges government to come up with comprehensive action plan. And Kenya's political drama heats up as Deputy President faces impeachment vote. Once again, I thank you so much for joining us. The federal government has unveiled Nutrition 774 initiative, a framework for a comprehensive vision for a nationwide nutrition program to address malnutrition and food insecurity in Nigeria. Vice President Kashim Shettima, during a roundtable with development partners at the presidential villa, said the initiative aligns with President Tinubu administration's broader focus on food security and availability across Nigeria. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
A presidential commitment with a dual mandate to ensure food availability and reduce malnutrition. The 144th meeting of the National Economic Council had in September endorsed the Nutrition 774 program as a primary platform for combating malnutrition within Nigerian communities. The Council encouraged development partners to provide financial and technical assistance to support this initiative. And at this roundtable with development partners, Vice President Kashim Shettima urged them to support the proposed initiative, recognizing the crucial role of collaboration in addressing the nation's nutritional challenges.
The N774 initiative is a very focused, multi-sectoral approach towards alleviating our challenges. The President is irrevocably, firmly committed to this initiative. The political will is there, and we'll play our own part well. The whole program is on mobilization of resources and technical assistance and capacity building. The blind cannot lead the blind. We have to enhance the capacity of our personnel at the local government level.
The Nutrition 774 initiative adopts a grassroots-driven approach, empowering local actors to take charge of nutritional improvements in their communities, as well as invest in local capacity through the training of health workers and community leaders. Development partners present at the meeting pledged their support for the nutrition program, commending the federal government for the initiative, even as they underscored its commitment towards scaling up nutrition across the country.
N774 recognizes the good work of the Supreme Court to really devolve power and control to the LGA level, and it is at that level where we believe we'll have the greatest impact to address malnutrition and to ensure the health and well-being of Nigerians.
This aligns very well with global evidence that shows that you need a combination of health, nutrition, interventions, water and sanitation, and agriculture education, all these packages targeted to the household at the community level to be able to make a significant needle on improving food security and reducing malnutrition.
The crisis of malnutrition caused by natural disasters, among other challenges, will require bold leadership in the humanitarian assistance space, aligning with the values and objectives outlined in the Nutrition 774 initiative. From the State House, Abdurrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
Stakeholders in Nigeria's insurance space have agreed that leveraging on data is a sure way to achieving financial and economic inclusion. This was at a roundtable on insurance hosted by the Vice President of Nigeria. Maria Ado Zakari reports.
Following the ASO Accord signed on April 25, 2024, stakeholders here are deliberating on the successes and ways of surmounting challenges in ensuring financial inclusion as relates to insurance. Vice President of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima, represented by the Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, Senator Ibrahim Hadija, alongside other stakeholders, agree that a workable regulatory framework that will effectively deliver on the socio-economic and health insurance of Nigeria should be pursued assiduously.
To say that I'm glad that almost for the first time we're looking at the insurance as a financial service. A lot of people, when they talk of financial inclusion, are limited to simply banking services.
A state just issued a notice to the effect that people have to leave their homes. Whilst this will look like something that is anticipated, it is not something you would imagine the state of those who this event would have affected. Inclusive insurance has the power to change this narrative.
The stakeholders resolved that challenges of awareness, collaboration, regulation, and sustainability will soon be issues of the past. ASO Accord, a multifaceted blueprint, is designed to actualize delivery of financial services at affordable costs to all Nigerians. Since it became effective, the Accord has received funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Maria Ado-Zakari, NTA News.
The Federal Republic of Nigeria has expressed concern over the attack on the residence of the United Arab Emirates UAE ambassador in Khartoum on Sunday, 22nd September 2024. A statement by a spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Eche Abuobe, calls on the authorities of the United Arab Emirates to take necessary measures to forestall reoccurrence and guarantee the safety and welfare of embassy staff and their families. Nigeria also calls on other relevant stakeholders to seek an amicable and peaceful resolution of the ongoing conflict to return normalcy to the country. We now move to Kenya, where Parliament was set to vote on impeaching Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua in a political drama that has exposed a rift in the governing party. And Guinea suspends officials for threatening junta. From Apanyi has details.
Lawmakers in Kenya have accused 59-year-old Deputy to President William Ruto of corruption, undermining the government, and practicing ethnically divisive politics, among a host of other charges. At a press conference, Gachagua denied the accusations, describing them as outrageous and sheer propaganda, saying it was a scheme to push him out of office. He weathered previous corruption scandals to become deputy leader as Ruto's running mate in a closely contested election in August 2022. However, in recent weeks, he has complained of being sidelined by his boss and been accused of supporting the youth-led anti-government protest that broke out in June. Political tensions have been rising since the demonstrations erupted over the unpopular tax hikes, exposing divisions between Gachagua and Ruto. But reports say no formal charges have been lodged by prosecutors and no judicial inquiry has been opened against Gachagua. Lawmakers have listed 11 grounds for impeachment, including accusations that he amassed assets worth 5.2 billion shillings, the equivalent of $40 million since the last election, despite an annual salary of just $93,000. Kenyan lawmakers initiated the impeachment process on October 1, with 291 members of parliament backing the motion, well beyond the 117 minimum required. Gachagua defended himself in the parliament before the motion sponsor, an MP from the ruling Kenyan Kwanza coalition, is allowed a 30-minute rebuttal. Two-thirds of 233 MPs must back the motion for it to pass. If passed, the motion will move to upper house, the Senate, and if impeached, Gachagua will become the first deputy president to be removed this way since the possibility was introduced in Kenya's revised 2010 constitution. Meanwhile, an official statement said Guinean authorities have suspended a senior official who sparked outcry after publicly threatening anyone who attacked the image of the country's military ruler. The state's representative in the eastern Kankan region warned that anyone who damaged memorial to junta chief Mamadi Doumbouya will meet the same fate as Dr. Diobate, who died in jail after being held for allegedly burning his portrait. Diobate was the third person in many months to be announced dead in detention. Reports say Kandia Mara, prefect of Kankan, has been suspended from his duties for gross misconduct. However, the official made the threats during a ceremony to inaugurate a memorial of Doumbouya. A September 2021 coup that toppled civilian President Alpha Conde brought the current junta to power, led by Doumbouya. Since he was sworn in as president, the junta has overseen a crackdown on dissent, banning all protest in 2022. Frama Pani, NTA News.
Armenia has refused to endorse two statements adopted at the Council of Foreign Ministers of the Commonwealth of Independent States in Moscow, with Russian President Vladimir Putin as host. Again, Frama Pani reports.
Tensions between Armenia and Russia have increased since 2022, with Armenia boycotting most CIS and Collective Security Treaty Organizations, CSTO, and sessions. This is while still maintaining frozen status in the CSTO. Armenian Foreign Ministry spokesperson announced that Armenia had not joined the two statements adopted earlier at Council of Foreign Ministers of the Commonwealth of Independent States, though they did not provide any details behind their decision. The first statement adopted focused on the principles of cooperation in ensuring security in Eurasia and advocated for the adaptation of the Eurasian architecture of interaction and in the areas of security, economics, culture, and other spheres to multipolar realities. And the second statement is on the inadmissibility of the use of unilateral restrictive measures in international relations, which was recommended that member states refrain from adopting, extending, or applying such measures. Meanwhile, during the meeting, Mirzoyan highlighted regional stability and security issues affecting Armenia. He addressed key recent developments regarding the regulation of relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan, particularly the signing of a peace treaty. Armenia in September confirmed its participation in a BRICS summit this October and another CIS summit in Moscow next year. The event will be attended by Presidents of Belarus, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, as well as Prime Minister of Armenia. Frama Pani, NTA News.
The European Union Economic and Financial Affairs Council has adopted implementing decisions approving targeted modifications to Lithuania's and Portugal's recovery as well as resilience plans. Haman Jabani reports on some of the resolutions reached by the Council.
European Union Economic and Financial Affairs Council is responsible for EU policy in three main areas: economic policy, taxation issues, and regulation of financial services. Ministers took stock of the implementation of the Recovery and Resilience Facility challenges, where up to date €267 billion have been disbursed, which represent over 41% of the overall commitment amount, helping member states to deal with various economic challenges. The Council approved the conclusion on climate finance ahead of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP29, underlying that the EU member states are committed to the current goals of developed countries to collectively mobilize $1 billion per year in climate finance until 2025.
A goal we successfully met last year. Looking ahead, as we prepare to negotiate new collective quantitative goals for the post-2025 period, it's imperative that we demonstrate our dedication to sustainable development.
The Commission presented a proposal to change the EU sanctions regime regarding the immobilized asset from the current 6 months to every 3 years. And you know that adjusting the sanctions regime is crucial to provide sufficient assurances to our G7 partners and facilitate a common G7 effort.
The Council approved the position of the EU and its member states for the 79th session of the UN General Assembly on the draft terms of reference for a UN Framework Convention on International Tax Cooperation. If adopted, the terms of reference provided for the Framework Convention on a new tax treaty to be developed by 2027. The UN treaty will need to be adopted by the General Assembly, after which it will be open for signature and ratification to all member states. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. We take a short break now. The news continues in a moment. Don't go away. Nigeria has joined Latin American nations, India, and the World Trade Organization in calling for the suspension of EU regulations on deforestation and agricultural produce ban. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security Abubakar Kyari stated these while inaugurating the National Task Force on European Union Deforestation Regulation. The EU emphasized that any company intending to penetrate their market or export will ensure that the produce or product is not from deforestation areas. The committee inaugurated by the minister is to ensure that Nigeria is not sidelined at the European markets.
The terms of reference of National Task Force includes the following. 1. Coordination of relevant stakeholders towards having a national approach on EU DR. 2. Design, implementation, and funding strategy for National Task Force on EU DR. 3. Review and adopt state plan for nationwide implementation. 4. Drive a sustainable advocacy and sensitization program on EU DR.
Now, the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, has charged the staff of the ministry to embrace speed, efficiency and result while handling tasks in their various offices. The minister gave the charge at an engagement with the ministry's Reform Coordination and Service Improvement Department under the Servicom Ministerial Charter. Francis Odojo has the details.
The minister's engagement with the ministry's Servicom unit provided an opportunity for top management officers and the staff to take stock of actions taken so far by the unit in ensuring effective service delivery to the internal and external public. Dangiwa further encouraged the staff to be result-oriented while assuring them that the ministry will continue to prioritize citizens' needs and feedback in providing affordable housing for all Nigerians. Tagging the ministry's Servicom action plan for this year as above and beyond, the minister believes it has provided a moment of reflection as the ministry works towards the delivery of the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This, the minister said, has reflected on the ongoing construction of 6,612 housing units across 13 states of the Federation, including FCT.
Mr. President is implementing long overdue reforms that are necessary to reset the country's economy on the path of sustainable growth and development. We therefore do not have the benefit of time to deliver. We must work extra harder towards ensuring that Nigerians feel the positive impact that the renewed hope agenda is delivering.
The National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of Servicom, Mrs. Unnenna Akajameli, while presenting the Servicom Ambassadors Award to the Minister and selected management and staff, informed that the gesture is to appreciate, encourage and reward employees of government and private to do more.
How will we achieve the renewed hope of Mr. President? It is when services truly serve the citizens, truly serve stakeholders. It's therefore important for every service provider to deliver effective service.
The engagement with the minister also featured talks on service delivery, health, as well as security tips. Francis Udojo, NT News.
The welfare of Nigerian Air Force personnel has received a significant boost with the introduction of the Group personal accident insurance policy. The Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, says the initiative is designed to offer comprehensive compensation for both temporary and permanent bodily injuries, as well as salary reimbursement for personnel during their hospital stays. Defense correspondent Olajide Bello reports that 14 beneficiaries of the Nigerian Air Force family benefited from the pilot scheme.
In the heart of Nigeria, where the skies are often patrolled by brave men and women of the Air Force, a silent battle rages on. These dedicated personnel face extreme hazards, daily risking life and limb to protect their nation. The stakes are high and the consequences of duty can be devastating injuries that change lives forever and, in most tragic instances, the loss of life. Recognizing the urgent need for support, the Nigerian Air Force has taken a monumental step with a commitment to the welfare of its personnel and their families by rolling out a series of insurance incentives aimed at alleviating the financial burden that comes with a workplace accident.
While these checks cannot undo the loss or reverse the disabilities suffered, they provide some comfort and reassure survivors that Nigerian Air Force stands firmly with them. They also convey a strong message to all personnel who bravely serve this great nation that the service will never abandon them.
While previous policies focused primarily on life insurance, a critical gap remained for those who suffer disabilities or injuries on duty. As the first checks are presented to beneficiaries, a wave of hope washes over the Air Force community.
The Nigerian Air Force ensures its personnel against adverse fallout of active engagements.
It's going to go a long way for me and the kids, for the support, in terms of their education, for my business.
The Nigerian Air Force also honored one of its own, Flying Officer David Sogokoya, whose outstanding performance not only earned him the title of the best graduating cadet, but also saw him win the highly coveted International Cadet Sword of Honor for 2023 and 2024 from the Royal Air Force College, Cranwell. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
Now, Senate wants the federal government to have a comprehensive action plan to tackle reoccurring flood disaster in Nigeria. Senate also commended President Bola Tinubu for setting up the Disaster Relief Fund and called for provisions in the 2025 budget for the dredging of rivers Benue and Niger as a preventive measure against flood. This call from the Senate is sequel to motions from Senator Adegbonmire Ayodele and Senator Amos Yohana on the recent devastation of flood on communities in Ondo and Adamawa states.
The Committee on Legislative Compliance will ensure that NEMA, FEMA, and relevant agencies of government rise to the occasion to ameliorate the sufferings of the people. And our heart goes out in sympathy to families that have been displaced and are affected.
Senate urged concerned authorities to be prompt in making available some form of relief to those affected. Now, the National Council on Climate Change and the World Bank are conducting an assessment of the current institutional flood, other disasters, drought risk policies and management to effectively prevent and protect the population from future occurrences and damages. Charles Alpha reports.
The 2012, 2019, 2022 and the most recent damages caused in Borno State and parts of the country this year occasioned this technical workshop on flood and drought risk management for climate resilience by the Nigerian government, with the National Council on Climate Change serving as the Secretariat and the World Bank providing technical expertise under the World Bank's EPIC response framework, which is the Enable, Plan, Invest and Control response.
We need to engage other sectors
So we should have a more collaborative approach for flood and drought risk management. This is a message.
Director General National Council on Climate Change, Nkiruka Madwekwe, and the Special Advisor to the President on National Economic Council and Climate Change, Rukaya El-Rufai, were convinced that disaster risk reduction efforts by the government are closely linked to the Sustainable Development Goals.
So the government's commitment to disaster risk reduction is essential for enhancing societal resilience, protecting vulnerable populations, and promoting sustainable development in the face of these ever-evolving hazards and challenges. Disaster
Stakeholders here think early warning is not a problem for Nigeria, but what seems to be the problem is early coordinated action.
There's a wide span of ecosystem and stakeholders involved in disaster management, not even the action, but from the prevention to the mitigation to the adaptation.
It is expected that at the end of the workshop, participants would have assessed the existing gaps, defining the scope of support available by building local capacities to achieve a climate resilience. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to commemorate the 2024 Global Hand Washing Day, the Minister of Water Resources says hand washing remains the panacea to curb the spread of deadly communicable diseases in the country. He stated these at a press briefing to mark the day in Abuja, and Usman Zubairu reports.
This is how the Global Hand Washing Day was observed this year, with government officials and stakeholders in the water and sanitation sector taking the campaign to the Garki Market in Abuja to create more awareness for members of the public. Global hand washing is observed annually to raise awareness on the importance of using soap for hand washing to lessen the burden of numerous diseases that pose a threat to development of population health. This year's themes reflects an important question: why are clean hands still important? It is because it is a key to reducing the burden of many diseases, and it contributes to preventing and mitigating the transmission of diseases such as cholera, diarrhea, and neglected tropical diseases. In commemoration of the day, the Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation tasked stakeholders in the sanitation sector to build on the gains made in the recent years by working together to ensure that hand-washing facilities are present in their residence, office, schools, healthcare facilities, and other public places.
It is considered as an affordable, accessible, do-it-yourself vaccine for sanitation and hygiene-related diseases like diarrhea, cholera, typhoid fever, pneumonia, which are prevalent in our communities.
We are raising your of the country's national life at all times. Usman Zubairu, NTA News.
This is where we end the news at NTA International. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Justin Abemuyi, and Precious Ozemana has been the sign language interpreter. Say bye for now.